Hey guys, before we get started, I just want to do a quick shout out to them. I can't pronounce your Twitter handle. And the piece they just did of me. Check that shit out. Isn't that cool? What's great about it is that they call this a warm-up sketch. If I ever drew anything of that quality, that would basically be my whole fucking month. With that out of the way, I want to start off this episode by saying that I respect teachers. Really, I do, honestly. Between the terrible hours and the terrible pay and the terrible working conditions, it's kind of amazing that anyone even bothers with it. I know a lot of teachers, and their reason for being a teacher tends to come down to either it was a position of last resort while they got back on their feet, or a genuine desire to teach the next generation. And that is fucking noble, especially after spending an hour on Fortnite and learning that the next generation is made up of a bunch of bloodthirsty fucking psychopaths.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
It's no wonder that my middle school science teacher threw a book at one. It hit, too. Knocked the kid out cold for like a minute. I think the teacher got put on administrative leave for a month, and we got stuck with a substitute who mostly just showed us movies. That was my experience with a lot of substitute teachers. They were either super hard-edged or put on a Disney movie and fell asleep. But I had a teacher in high school who I swear was the absolute most bonkers one I've ever experienced. Not the worst. One day we'll get to the worst. But this one was definitely the most, I want to say, out there. I don't remember much about her because I've spent the last decade and some change trying to forget high school. It was not a fun time for me. But here's what still remains after the decade plus of alcohol. One, she was some kind of exchange teacher. The school had entered into an instructor trade-off with the state. They sent their science teacher to, I think, Malaysia, and in return, we got their instructor. So what I'm describing might just be a result of the difference in curriculum. One was based in science, and the other one was not, which would have been okay, except number two, she was a science teacher and she was a hardcore creationist. And when I say hardcore, I mean Ken Ham trapped in a coffin with Kent Hovind and Kirk Cameron. What's with all these K's? With nothing to do between them but watch Estes Perkle movies.
Will you come? Will you come? Will you come?
I remember very clearly we were starting a section on plate tectonics, and before we got started, she closed the book and said, "The book is now going to describe to you the process of continental drift, but before we get started, I wanted to let you all know that continental drift is a theory, and that the world was created and all of its landmasses were set in place 6,000 years ago by our Lord Yashua God." I would like to say that after that we all kind of sat there in bemused silence, but I grew up in the Bible Belt, so, you know, the crowd goes wild. A lot of lessons we just straight up skipped, but they weren't the lessons you would expect. For example, we covered evolution after an hour-long caveat where she described how the devil placed fossils on the earth to, quote, test us. But I recall a lot about plate tectonics specifically because one of the class projects that we had to do was break off into groups and build a seismograph. Now, in case you don't know what a seismograph is, basically they have a rolling piece of paper and a needle, and if the ground shakes, the needle shakes and it gets on the paper. You know, it looks like this. Now, the rest of the class was building their stuff basically out of popsicle sticks and string and a pen. Side note, I want all of you to think back to all the times you ever complained about your science class. All the times you ever complained about having to clean up a lab space. And I want you to take those times and shove them, because I never even got a lab space. I went through all of high school without doing any kind of chemical analysis or dissection or anything up until my senior year when we tested soil acidity with one of those Lowe's home improvement soil testing kits. So don't you dare ever complain again about having to deal with getting an education. Some of us weren't that lucky. I thought I was gonna have an actual science class in university getting my bachelor's, but fate struck again because I waited till the last minute to take care of my gen eds, and when I finally got around to them, what should happen but the fucking apocalypse? So instead of doing actual lab work, I got to read about doing actual lab work from the comfort and safety of my own box apartment. Oh, the fun! So anyway, while everyone else was making stands with a pen suspended between two popsicle sticks, I decided to do something a little bit more complicated. I had one of my team members bring an old broken radio with a tape deck, which we had time to do because this project had multiple days. Please don't make me think about how this project had multiple days. Again, I've tried to forget high school. I think I may have gotten the educational equivalent of a fucking afternoon on YouTube my entire time there. Maybe this is why I never pursued a career in science. I was discouraged from the very start. Anyway, I disassembled the broken radio and used parts from the tape deck to create a working seismograph. The tape deck had a wooden dowel superglued between the two spindles that would roll the paper automatically while I used the housing and a spring from the CD player to suspend the pen. And it friggin' worked. And I got a C. Why? Because no one else in my group did any work. Because no one else in my group wanted to do any work. So everyone got an 80 because fuck me. After that, I basically gave up, and ironically, my grades in that class dramatically improved. Still, I wasn't exactly looking forward to a state-mandated final exam in a class that hadn't gone over any of the state-mandated material. Thing is, I didn't have to worry about all that because I never got a final exam. I'm not sure how she pulled it off, but everybody passed the final exam that we didn't take. Yeah. Instead of a final exam, we all just spent 2 hours watching a movie. But don't worry, it was a very educational movie. I think you might have heard of it. It's called Passion of the Christ. Yes. In Earth Science class, we watched Passion of the Christ. Because, you know, Jesus was a famous chemist who managed to turn blood plasma into alcohol, I guess. So yeah, I spent the last 2 hours in my Earth Science class watching Jim Caviezel get the skin taken off his back. It was a very informative class. I want to preface this by saying that not every class I had in high school was like that. There were a lot of teachers that genuinely cared about their job and really tried, and I give them a lot of credit, especially given the system they were in. I genuinely try to not think about it too much, but on occasion, I catch myself wondering what else is still going on. Most of the teachers I had in high school were all getting on there in years, and I have to wonder who got replaced. I mean, it's not my problem, I guess, but still, you never know. Anyway, if you like that video, why not give me a like and a thumbs up, which is the same thing as a like, but also subscribe and hit that bell. And hey, if you want a chance to choose the next topic, I got a poll going on up there at the top of the screen. You know, just click on it, find something you like, and who knows, I'll cover it if it gets the most votes. No pressure. And as always, have a good day. The school had entered into an The stool.